Are we live? I think we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Good morning. Welcome to our group. My name is Andrea Miliani. I'm the founder of this group. I'm also a Parent Connect coach, a leader in the mental wellness company, and I'm a mental health advocate. Good morning. Welcome. If you are coming on, say hello. Give me a hashtag live in the comments. Tell me where you're coming in from. And give me a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. Good morning. Executive functioning. ADHD and executive functioning. ADHD is a developmental delay in executive function. And just a little bit of background, just in general, before we kind of dive into what it means for kids. But executive function is a term used to describe the processes that happen in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is your front part of the brain. We like to call it the CEO of our brain. And it's like our operating system, right? Like our computer operating system, right? The mainframe. Anybody who has ADHD has lagging executive function skills. Sometimes it can appear that they do not. Sometimes it can appear that they do not, if they are really motivated and learn how to compensate early. But essentially, ADHD is lagging executive skills. So, like I said, but that motivation part, when they're motivated, they got interested, it can kind of disappear a little bit, it's covered up, because that's what it is. When they're doing their interest, their passion, realize, but if they're doing something they have to do, and the interest isn't there, it's very difficult. So, a child with ADHD has a 2 to 3 year delay. Just say that 30% delay in executive function skills. So you can have a 7-year-old, and your 7-year-old's executive function age is between the age of about 4 or 5 years old. The same goes for your 13-year-old. Their executive function age would be about 10 or 11 years old. So when we are helping our kids and we are raising our kids, we need to be supporting their executive function age. Like when you're doing their homework and they're frustrated because they're not understanding the homework, you have to think, how do I best support my 5-year-old, my 4 or 5-year-old with this? Might be 7, but you have to support that executive function age, which is really, really important. And a lot of parents, that's a big, big struggle, because people just don't get that. Because you're thinking, here's your child at 7, here's what a 7-year-old should be doing, but based on their executive function, they're going to be behind. So you need to be supporting their executive function age. Your expectations with your son or with your daughter need to match their executive function age. So it's to help them improve their executive function skills. Change the way you use language, right? And implement strategies to build skills and cultivate independence. And the sooner you start this, the better. But you can start this at any time. Okay, so that's the basics. There you got it. It's executive function. Now, executive function deficits common in kids with ADHD. Well, we got number one is difficulty with self-directed talk. Self-directed talk is what I call the child brain coach. It's that internal dialogue in our heads. We don't have that internal dialogue. What happens with someone with ADHD, the volume of that, of this internal dialogue, so brain coach, so to speak, gets turned down too low. It gets turned down too low if it's something that is not interesting to them. So, for instance, even, a child needs to do homework and it's not interesting to them. That brain coach value is so low, that's why they're struggling. But yet, if a child is doing video games, well, now that brain dialogue is turned up because they're doing something that is so interesting and it motivates them. It feeds their dopamine. So it's an internal dialogue. And then two, the nonverbal working memory. Kids with ADHD have difficulty with future thinking skills, which is why it doesn't work to say, if you do all your chores this week, you can have extra video time this weekend. The time horizon is too far into the future for them, so the reward feels too abstract. That's why I say it has to be in the moment. What you're asking them to do has to be within. It can't be too large. It has to be within that small time frame, and then the reward has to be immediate too. It can't be like, what you do today, I'll reward you over the weekend. It's too much for them. So if your child ever done their homework but forgotten to hand it in, it's because they didn't visualize themselves handing in the work, right? So say, for instance, if your son just sits there in the morning and you have to guide him through each step getting ready, it's because he's not visualizing himself doing the routine, right? When they're not visualizing, they can't see it. They can't see it ahead behind. Okay? A third thing is sensing the passage of time. If your child ever lacks a sense of urgency or spends more time complaining about a chore than it would actually take to do the chore, that is because he has difficulty sensing the passage of time. Typical strategies like visual timers or checklists may keep a child on track, but it will not help them build stronger executive function skills. So it's that sense of urgency, right? Or spend some time complaining about a chore, right? That's a simple chore. Like, they don't want to take out the garbage. They're complaining so much when in the whole complaining, they could have had taken it out, been back, and done what they wanted to do. It's that sense, that passage of time. They're not sensing that. And then a fourth thing is ability to sustain attention to non-preferred tasks. or subjects. ADHD is not an inability to pay attention. When someone with ADHD finds something interesting, they can fully pay attention and even notice details that others don't see. That can only, that can really help them in life, particularly when they find a career path that works for them. If your son ever starts yelling at you and gets really upset when you tell him it's time to get off video games, that is not a behavior issue. It is an executive function. He hasn't prepared for the transition from a preferred task to a non-preferred task. That is a big thing, guys. There's got to be a process to getting them prepared from transitioning from getting off their video game to going to wash up for dinner, or getting it off to transition from the video game to getting off to doing the homework or going to bed. You can't, if you just say, okay, to get off your game, you get yelled at. That's because they're not prepared for that. So, common misperceptions of executive function among parents are: 1, intelligence has nothing to do with executive function. I always say that, and you'll probably hear all the time. That's why ADHD is not an intelligence disorder. It has nothing to do with having the intelligence to do something. So that's why I don't want to hear people say, you're not smart. Why do you always forget to hand in your homework? It's also not helpful to say things like, think before you act, because you're asking your child to do something that their brain is not capable of doing. Okay? So important. And then, excuse me. Okay. Number 2, another misconception is lagging executive function skills often appear behavioral, right? And in nature to the untrained eye, right? Counseling or talk therapy is not going to address lagging executive function skills. So right away, you're lagging your executive function skills. Appear behavioral in the nature to the untrained eye. So you think counseling, getting a therapist, talking, that's not going to address that lagging executive function skill. That's not going to help it, because that needs to be worked on differently. It's just, that's why there are therapists that are trained, they're executive function therapists, so function coaches to help with that. And that's something that I do as well. I could actually, even help your child help to coach your child with their executive function with their executive function challenges. And they can't help it, but there are things that can work to help strengthen that. But talk therapy is not going to help it, guys. Not going to help it. So a third misconception is it's natural for parents of kids with ADHD to act as their executive functioning, right? But this creates prompt dependence, which means kids become over-dependent on their parents to act as their executive function rather than developing their own, right? The problem with this is that it can further delay the development of executive function skills. Kids learn that if they act helpless, things will be done for them, right? It's never too late for your son or your daughter to prove their executive function skills and develop independence. When kids realize their abilities and that they can do tasks independently, it builds their confidence. So these are all right. So that would be the third one. It's parents, like, it's such a must not to, in other words, you want to help your child develop their own executive functioning. You develop that strategy so they can. That's the whole point of what I do. It's helping your child to be successful without you. When we look back at a child, we have a baby, and you take that baby home, and honestly, they can't do anything. They rely on you for everything. You're feeding them, you're changing them. That's natural. And then when they start, they start to get spoon fed. It's the same thing you're gonna do. You might even play tricks and do like the airplane game, and you're gonna have, because you're introducing something. But by the time they're, say, about 4 years old, 3 years old, or something, a 3 or 4 year old can make their own bed if they're showed how. And you can and really go through that. So you can work through that with your child by showing them, by helping them what works for them to remember, helping them to be successful independently. Because otherwise, if you do everything and you act as their executive function, you're creating that codependence. And, that's not where we want to go from here. So these are just a little, some misconceptions of executive function in parents, and, in regard to deficits amongst our kids in executive functioning. So I hope this helped this morning. And, if you found value here, let me know that in the comments. And certainly, if you would like to know what it would be like to work with me, comment that. You want more clarity around parenting your child, comment, let me know, yes. I would like more information. And, what I'll do is I will be happy to send you a DM. And I can send you the link so we can set up a clarity call, 30-minute clarity call, just us getting on the phone and I just basically asking questions about you, your challenges. I want to get to know you, you to get to know me, and just see if, we're a fit for each other, and if we can go from there. So I'll be happy to do that. Just comment that. I'll send you over the link. So I hope this helped, and keep rocking it, guys. You are amazing as always. And before I end this, I'm just going to end this with a brief prayer, because I like to just say, Dear Father, pray for my moms, single dads, caregivers. Give them strength and the knowledge to understand the challenges that their children face, to understand that it's not their fault. To most importantly, for them to be calm in themselves, to take care of themselves first. Because if they don't, they can't expect to help their children. Give them the clarity to see this. And Father, please, if there is one or more parents who hear this today, help them to reach out to me so we can get on that call and we can get to know each other. And just see where that could go. Help them know how I can help them because of my own struggles as a parent and as an adult who has ADHD, who was diagnosed very late in her adult years. So I understand the challenges that people and kids face with ADHD. Give them the strength to understand that. Help them, guide them. Amen. And I want to thank you this morning for joining me. So, and please, if you haven't seen this, please, you go back and watch the replay. Let me